Alright, let's get started. This is my truck. It's a 1994 Ford Ranger XLT. I think it's fucking phenomenal. It's a little rusted, but hey, it still works. How? I have no fucking idea. I know more about fighting bears with toothpicks and how this thing still runs in 2025. But I don't have to know. I just wanted to show off my truck. Today we're going to be looking at an absolute truckload of games. If your weekends are spent anything like mine, browsing the retro game section when you have $30 in your bank account, you've probably seen the Ford Racing series. It went on for a good 7 years, and you probably don't know how many games were actually in it. Well, I just told you, it's way too many. In this video, we're going to be looking at Ford Racing 1, 2, 3, Mustang versus Chevy, Street Racing, and Off-Road Racing. That's every single game in the official Ford Racing series except Ford Racing Full Blown. Why am I not reviewing that one? Well, because it's an arcade game, and it's also a port of 3. I really don't want to drive 300 miles to a Dave & Mustard. Dave & Mustard is crazy. Dave & Buster's to talk about a game that I've already reviewed. That's stupid. You also may be wondering why I'm reviewing all of these games to start with. Well, as I've already said, I see these games all over the place. They are literally everywhere. They're like smallpox on used game stores. I see them so often. I have like 3 copies of Ford Racing 1. No one should have 3 copies of Ford Racing 1. Like, genuinely, it's actually ridiculous. I also thought this would be a really good video because it seems like, even though these games are everywhere, the only one that people really care about is 2. If you clicked on this video, it's either because you're a loyal checkpointer, or because you played 2 when you were 5 years old and can't remember it now. Which, I mean, fair enough, I can't remember anything from when I was 5. Or yesterday. I'm also fairly certain this is going to be the first video on the internet to cover every single Ford Racing game. There is one other guy who's done a couple of the games, but he didn't do any of the fun new Technics ones. So let's just get into it. The year is 2001. The PS2 just launched in America 3 months prior, but you weren't lucky enough to get one for Christmas. You're stuck with the old Sony PlayStation to get your gaming thrills. One day after school, your dad comes home holding a most special sight, a GameStop bag. What could it be? He hands you the bag and you pull out Ford Racing for the PS1, the latest in racing technology. Being an extremely late PS1 title, it sports the best graphics, the best sound, and amazing new features you never thought the PS1 could have. Looks like you didn't need a PS2 after all. Is what I would say if this game was good. Ford Racing 1 is pretty bad, and it's not really interesting, so unless you're curious, you can skip to this time to hear me talk about Ford Racing 2 and the rest of the series. For all of my adventurous people, let's go! I really wish I could sugarcoat it, but how could I? Look at it! Gran Turismo came out 4 years prior on the same console and looks 100 times better. This is fugly, I'm sorry, and it doesn't get better when you actually start playing the game. First off, there's technically 11 cars in this game, but none of them are the Ford Ranger, and the game starts you off in possibly the worst controlling vehicle ever. It feels like I'm trying to make a fridge whip around these curvy ass tracks. Ford Racing 1 believes the best way to teach someone to drive is to drop them in the middle of I-24 in a shopping cart and a helmet. The handling is way heavier than it needs to be, and I'm not saying this is a sim, I'm not saying it should be 100% accurate, but the weight of these vehicles is just straight up unrealistic. The consistently piss poor frame rate and borderline Super Nintendo graphics certainly don't help it feel smooth either. Let me remind you guys, this was a January of 2001 PS1 title. The PS2 released in October of 2000. I'm not hating this game because it's old, I'm hating it because this was way too far into the PS1's lifespan to be like this. Arguably, it was released after the PS1's lifespan. I feel like I've bashed this game enough just based on its surface level, but I did actually play this for longer than 5 minutes, so I have some more to say. I mentioned a minute ago that you start off in the worst controlling vehicle ever, specifically the Ford Ka, a car so good no one cares about it and it doesn't get made anymore. You know, normally cars started off looking cool and just recently turned into ugly little crossover SUV hatchbacks, but the Ford Ka has always been ugly. Truly sensational. Anyway, you unlock more vehicles by competing in full racing seasons. These are about 7 races each, and you have to get first in the season to progress. You heard that right, 77 races in total to unlock all of the vehicles, and you start with the absolute worst. Look at this cover. You think you're in for some high-speed action, but no. You're going to be driving a Euro shitbox with Walmart bag windows. This is the car that cuts you off in traffic, acts like you're the asshole, and then they pass you and you go, oh, so that's why you look like that. Luckily, it isn't all bad. During a season, you can use your winnings to upgrade the season's car, and this can make it a breeze. Until the game randomly decides you're driving a new car for one race and none of your upgrades apply. In Ford Racing, you can't have shit. This is all compounded by the fact that Ford Racing has the most brutal AI I have ever experienced in a game. What makes them so brutal, you may ask? Well, there is no AI. They're literally just ghosts that take the same route every time and don't acknowledge you at all. If you can upgrade the vehicle you're in, then they're easily dusted, but if you're on an equal playing field, I swear they make the most bullshit impossible turns ever. The only thing they're good for is slamming into. They function as moving walls, which I guess makes sense if you're basically driving a fridge. It's fridge racing up in this bitch. That's really all there is to it though. Ford Racing 1 doesn't try to do a whole lot, but everything it does try sucks. I truly wish I had one single positive thing to say, but I'm sorry, Toolbox Design. It ain't good. I'm sure they aren't too hurt though. Every reviewer out there said this was ass. Except GameZone apparently. What did they play? 9.4 out of 10? What? Ford Racing 1 is not good in any way, shape, or form. There is a reason this thing is in the bargain bin of every single retro game store I've ever been to. I have 2 copies of this game, and I paid for both of them. Don't be like me. This isn't worth buying, let alone emulating. This game's a piece of shit. Let's move on.
Fuck this game.
Hello to everyone who skipped that boring ass section, and also everyone who didn't. We're gonna move on to Ford Racing 2. As mentioned previously, this is probably why you clicked on the video. The popular opinions of the series peaked here, in the second game. Well, that's kind of sad. I am actually pretty excited to talk about this game though. Why? Well, because it's good. And also that means I don't have to make anyone mad by saying this game sucks and it's their entire childhood. But frankly, if your entire childhood is Ford Racing 2, that's also kind of sad. Ford Racing 2 was developed by Razorworks, who is notably not Toolbox Interactive from Ford Racing 1. Presumably Ford wasn't happy with their brand being slandered by a melting pixelated cost slamming into walls. When I first picked up my copy of Ford Racing 2, I saw that Gotham Game sticker on the cover and went, maybe I should play Project Gotham Racing. I hear good things about it. It's probably the same team. But nope, just the publisher, no relation. Ford Racing 2 is such an extreme step up in quality from the last game that comparing it to the first is almost impossible, so from here on out we'll treat Ford Racing 2 as the actual start of the series. Does that work for you guys? No? Well fuck. On a serious note though, most of the other games are developed by Razorworks and are based on Ford Racing 2, so for practical purposes, it's the start of the rest of the series. Let's review it now, here we go. You seeing this? It's like they made a video game or something. Let's get the biggest thing out of the way first. This is quite literally a sight for sore eyes. Ford Racing 1 was genuinely beginning to hurt my eyes as I was playing it. I rather like Ford Racing 2's graphics. We've got some decent vehicle models, flashy light effects, neat track aesthetics. It's all pretty good. By no means is it astounding, but it works well enough. My only major complaints about Ford Racing 2's graphics are in some of the more out there tracks, mostly the ones set in the desert. Not only are they kinda samey, but they also look, I don't know, flat, just kinda generic, like there's not a lot going on. I don't know what it is though, I might be crazy. Anyway, now that I've mentioned the visuals, let's get my disclaimer out of the way. I, Spoop from No Checkpoint, emulated all of these games. I own original copies and the hardware to run it, but I'm lazy. Recording the PS3 sucks, okay? Emulating some of these games is not perfect, and Ford Racing 2 has some problems. The biggest one is the road texture not working right. If you want to play these games and run into this problem, then change your renderer to OpenGL. In PCSX2, this can be done by going into Config, Video, and then Plugin Settings. You're welcome. Back to the game now. When you first start the game, you'll be directed towards 2's main gameplay mode, the Ford Challenge. Anyone who's ever tried to drive a Ford will already have a guess at what this is, but no, it's not the transmission. The Ford Challenge is how you unlock cars, tracks, and game modes, and it's rather simple. Each car has its own challenge, and if you beat it, you unlock it for use in Ford Collection, which is basically just free play. Ford Challenge leaves me kinda mixed. On one hand, I think it is great that you can just start up the game and begin unlocking stuff without having to do 30 million races, and the variety in challenges is nice as well, but the quality of the challenges can leave something to be desired. Racing line challenges suck, and they seem to only make you do it in cars that drive like ass. Some challenges are easily beaten first try by pretty much anyone, and some are an over-precise slog that make me want to put the game down. I'm also not the biggest fan of how few regular races are in Ford Challenge. I get it, each challenge is supposed to be unique, but the game doesn't have a Grand Prix mode. I see zero harm in having more regular racing in the racing game's main mode. The gameplay progression is also a complete wreck, with almost no cohesion. Seeing as the player can pick almost any vehicle they want to start with, it would make sense that it would be all over the place, but not to this extent. If you start at the top left and make your way in order, you'll encounter one of the hardest parts of the game on your third vehicle, the 55 Thunderbird racing line. On the contrary, as you unlock new vehicles such as the concepts and stock cars, you'll find they're so fast and well controlling you get no time in those challenges at all. Shouldn't the better controlling and faster vehicles have harder challenges to compensate? Am I the only one who thinks that makes no sense? Whatever. While I did just spend half a paragraph complaining about Ford Challenge, I did find it engaging throughout. I just think it has some issues. Now that we've unlocked all the cars and tracks, we can go over to them in Ford Collection. I have no idea why it's called Ford Collection and not Ford Free Play, but shush. Considering this is a budget PS2 title, I think we've got some real snazzy cars in this game. Everything from the over-marketed Ford GT to a variety of Mustangs, pickups, and some neato concepts. A lot of the more niche vehicles are really interesting to look back on today. Can you believe in 2003 they thought people cared about the Ford Explorer Sport Track? For those of you not in the know, the Ford Explorer is that one cop SUV that looks kinda ugly. The Explorer Sport Track is a pickup variant. Yeah, it's really weird, and surprisingly, the newest version of the Rangers are actually a sequel to the Sport Track platform. I hate new Rangers, by the way. Another fun oddity is the Power Stroke concept. For those who don't know, the Power Stroke is a diesel engine they put in big boy Fords. It's made to compete with the Cummins and the Duramax. The Power Stroke concept was an entire truck made to showcase the latest version of it, and it was clearly designed by someone on mescaline. Goofy Bumblebee truck. It also drives like a dream. You can tell they were trying to advertise this thing because no way in hell is this realistic handling. That handling bit applies to all of the concepts actually. Super fast, easy turns, it's really just not fair. The rest of the roster does have fairly realistic handling though. Once again, this is not a sim, but you can tell what they were going for and feel the differences between each car. One thing I thought was really neat was how the 4x4 F-150 and the regular F-150 do control differently. The four-wheel drive is actually a four-wheel drive. You can't really drift the thing. Isn't that cool? Some vehicles also have notable turning physics like the F100. That means it sucks, I mean it's like 70 years old, but once again, we're talking about a licensed racing game on the PS2 that was budget. This is cool. Moving on to the tracks, there's a good bit of variety. They're separated into 3 categories: streets, off-road, and arenas. Streets can be raced on by all cars. Off-road is exclusive to off-road vehicles, obviously. Arenas are visually cool, but half are just circles and the other half remind me of Ford Racing 1, so I hate them. All non-arena tracks are legitimately good in my opinion. The street tracks all differentiate themselves enough in aesthetics and layout to be distinct. Racing through Miami streets, the Florida Highway, or the Frosty Interstate is pretty dang fun. My praise also applies to the off-road tracks. They're not as varied with the insets, but the locations are cool enough for me to not mind. The desert is pretty bad with being samey. Ghost Town and Old Railroad are hard to tell apart at a glance, but Military Base makes up for that, I think. It's got helicopters flying around and tanks and stuff, and it's cool. Speaking of shit flying around, most levels have cool stuff happening just beyond the playable area. A lot of helicopters, but we also got a crane and some hot air balloons. Neat stuff. The personal highlight for me has got to be the volcano level though. Not only is the layout just plain good, but you can drive through a lava, man. That's super fucking cool. The standard racetracks are really the only tracks I have no praise for. The ovals are whatever, whoop-de-doo. I don't expect much from them. My problem is with the other race. They are so terribly similar that I feel like my eyes are blurring together whenever I play them. I also just don't like the designs. I prefer my arcadey racers to be about beating my opponents and not fighting tight turns in a car that spins out easily. For as much as it's shown in 2 and 3, being on the damn cover and main menu of both, the Ford GT drives like crap. You'd even tap the brakes and you're flying, which wouldn't be a problem if it weren't for every other car not being like that. This is not a sim, so why is the cool race car they put on the cover so punishing to drive? I'm getting off topic. Ford Racing 2 is a decent game at the end of the day. My only problem with it is beyond Ford Challenge there's not much to do, but Ford Challenge is pretty fun. If you see this at a game store for, say, $4.98, it's harmless, really, and it's definitely worth the time it takes to set up the emulator. So, I mean, check it out, I guess, or don't, because the next game is even better. Razorworks joins us once again for Ford Racing 3. Glad to have you back. Releasing only a year later, it seems like they're trying to go for that COD formula. Despite COD not having a yearly release in 04 and COD actually having 3 devs to achieve the yearly release, let's skip the foreplay on this one. Ford Racing 3 is exactly what I wanted after Ford Racing 2. That COD joke is more apt than I thought it would be when I wrote it during my 16-hour shift. We're on the same engine as the last game, with all the same vehicles, but now there's new maps, a refined feel, and a much better game to play. If I had to describe Ford Racing 3 in a word, it would be smooth. Smoother than Ford Racing 2 in graphics, sound, UI, driving, all the ways. Do I think that makes it better? Overall, yes, but some things I believe have taken a step backwards, and that's why I'm here, to get into the nitty-gritty and talk about old games no one else cares about. Before I begin complaining though, I'd like to thank Razorworks for traveling to the future and reading my unfinished script before making Ford Racing 3. My number one criticism, that Ford Challenge is cool but the game lacks anything else, has been addressed. This go around, Ford Challenge takes a backseat and we now have Ford Competition. Because we now have 2 modes that are just Ford and a long C word, I'm done saying their full names, okay? We got Career and Challenge. Or for you guys, no, well, fuck. The new career mode follows a pretty simple structure. You go through completing unique themed tournaments. Unlike challenge mode, you have to complete easier ones before unlocking harder ones. It's like traditional structure, it's exactly what I wanted. After you complete a tournament, you unlock more tracks, cars, and sometimes even the option to customize the paint job on unlocked cars. I say sometimes because it seems as though only cars unlocked through career get that option. I think the new career mode is a great addition. Challenge is cool and all, and I really liked it, but it's not enough to carry an entire game. Now that there's 2 entirely different modes that both provide unlocks, Ford Racing 3 begins to actually feel like a complete game. Ford Racing 2 was good and all, but it felt like a demo. Ford Racing 3 is actually somewhat substantial. We also got a couple of improvements to the game as a whole, career and challenge. The main one that made me really happy is Raceline has essentially been removed. We still have a mode called Raceline, but instead of having to damn near perfectly follow a curvy line like this is an F1 game, we have a new boost meter that fills up when you follow the line. So instead of being punished, you get rewarded, which is way more fun in a lighthearted arcade racer about Fords. See, unlike some people, I don't really like having my balls punched repeatedly in video games. Mostly in real life. Let's move on now. I said earlier that I think Ford Racing 3 is better than 2 overall, and while that is true, I also mentioned that some things here were worse. Don't worry, I'm not going to throw this game in the toilet, but I have my issues. My main one is level selection and variety. I thought Ford Racing 2 had pretty good track variety, but here it's just gone way downhill. The designs themselves are good. We even have shortcuts. Holy shit, it's like a video game. But the aesthetics are so samey and dull that driving around the game blends together in my mind. We went from volcano racing to driving around rural Ohio in November. I'm pretty sure my dad worked here. I think the cleaner aesthetic is nice and all, but was it really worth losing a lot of the whimsy that 2 had? Another issue I have is that we have reverse tracks now. Ford Racing 2 had 16 tracks, and now we're down to 14 original and 12 reverse tracks. That doesn't sound too bad, but remember that I just complained about every track looking too similar. All of the reverse tracks only make it blend together all the more.
What are you doing?
I don't even fucking know, man. One thing I'm very mixed on is the change in physics from 2 to 3. This is honestly the biggest deciding factor to which game you'll like more. Ford Racing 3 controls way faster and looser than 2, even with vehicles that definitely shouldn't be able to go this fast. You do 140 in this game like it's nothing. I don't think any Ford from 2004 can do 140 without falling off a cliff. The reason I'm mixed on the physics change is because I do actually kind of like how arcadey and fun it is. Even though the AI can be kind of cutthroat, I would say Ford Racing 3 is easier than 2. This is a big reason I called it smooth easier. It's just an easygoing type of game. Hop in and race. But I do think that detracts from the main purpose of this game. This is a game all about driving Fords, real-world cars, a lot of common cars, and I would be a fool to say that any of these are even somewhat realistic. A lot of reviews from the time mention that. My first and final impressions of this game? Bleh. Ford Racing 3 is not a travesty, but it's not any good either. The best thing that can be said for it is it's filled with 55 Fords, and if you like Fords, well, they're here for you. But I cannot say you'll have any fun or kind of thrill when looking at them, driving them, or even collecting them, which is kind of the whole point behind this cheap-ass, mediocre, and minimal effort. Reading some of these reviews made me realize I may have bad taste, because I really enjoyed my time with 3. So far, it's my favorite. But everything I've been saying applies to the PS2 version, which is obviously what I played for the video. I happen to have installed on this here modded 3DS another version of Ford Racing 3, so let's see what it's got for me. Never mind. But all in all, Ford Racing 3 is really good. As mentioned previously in the intro, if you can remember that far back, Ford Racing 3 also got ported to the arcade in the form of Ford Racing Full Blown. Well, I think this is good, so if Ford Racing Full Blown is similar, well, that's good then, I guess. I don't know how to speak. It's pretty hard. This is Ford Mustang. A legend lives. Looking at the box here, you may notice something different this time around. There's new names on it now. Razorworks has been dropped for this entry, and instead we have Eutechnics. I'm a little bit disappointed this isn't a direct sequel to Ford Racing 3, because I thought that was great. But let's see what they got for us. In making this video, I have spent a lot of time on the Ford Racing series Wikipedia page and the individual game pages. Now, I liked what Razorworks did in the last games, but that doesn't mean I'll hate the new guys right out of the gate, but something did immediately put me off. Ford Racing 2 and 3 had a 1-year gap, both being released in October of 03 and 04 respectively. Ford Mustang came out in April of 05. That's only 6 months later. I legitimately did a double take when I saw that. But if I had played the game first, I would have known better. Ford Mustang is not good. I feel nothing towards this game except apathy, and that's probably because I'm not in the target demographic. I do not care for Mustangs, and as such there's nothing but violent mediocrity for me. Say what you will about the other games, but at least you felt like you were actually driving a vehicle. I struggle to find the words to describe Ford Mustang's physics. It's heavy and floaty at the same time. Turning is exceptionally bad. Some cars slide like there's no tomorrow, and some do a full 180 before your finger even touches the control stick. Most of the time, it's better to just slam into the wall instead of trying to properly turn or drift. There is no joy to be found in driving these vehicles. I could stop there. If you don't like Mustangs, there's nothing here for you. But no, I got beef with this game. To start with, Ford Challenge is gone. That mode was so cool, and now we ain't got nothing. In terms of single player content, there's only career, time trial, and swim through all the rings. So let's talk about my experience in this career mode. I start the game and begin seeing how piss poor these physics are. I'm not happy to start with. I then start to notice the track designs are so dull. It's like if someone messed up drawing a rectangle and that's what they went with. If you wanted every track to be straight lines, maybe you should have made a drag racing game, but that's just me. Let me be clear as crystal. I have not been enjoying a thing in this game up to this point. Then on the 4th race, the game wants me to do a 6-lap race on a giant boring track. Excuse me? The fastest lap is a minute? Nothing in an arcade racer should take at least 6 minutes. What? It's not even 6 minutes on a fun, interesting track. It's a bunch of straight lines at night. I am not doing that. There's plenty of small things that aren't bad. There's NPC cars on the road, each track has a cool little introduction, the graphics are a little better, but none of that matters because the physics are this bad. This is a downgrade in every way that matters because the physics, oh my god. No. Even if you love Mustangs, there are better games that have Mustangs in them. I see no value in a racing game where nothing drives good. I can't lie though, the game does look pretty good. You want to know something? I wasn't originally going to review Ford Mustang at all, but against my better judgment, I did. Why though? Well, because I really wanted to review the next Epochs game, and it's not even technically part of the Ford Racing series. Why would I want to do that? This is a video about the Ford Racing series. Well, it's because of another vehicle I'm dangerously autistic about. Tahoes. It's not just Tahoes though. Anything Tahoe shaped, sized, or related. I'm talking Suburbans, Expeditions, Excursions, Escalade, Yukons, Wagoneers, Armadas, Navigators, Sequoias, Mountaineers, even the goddamn Zuzu Trooper. This one's mine. When times get tough, I look to my glorious 2000 Suburban I got from the thrift store. You can tell it's a Suburban because it says Suburban on it. But because it's kind of old, it's racist sometimes. So when I don't like what it has to say, I ask my Yukon for advice. I got this one at the dollar store. I truly don't know what causes my obsession beyond autism, but I know that it drove me to purchase this game, Ford vs. Chevy. I saw this cover and I thought, Tahoe, Suburbans, Expeditions, Excursions, all in one game? Sign me up. But, as we've seen, Ford Mustang sucked, and Epochs is back for this game. This game had an incredibly short development time, but honestly, I'm in too deep at this point. Let's see what it's got. You guys want to hear a fun fact? We are 5 games in and we still haven't talked about a game that came out after I was born. Yeah, I'm a spring chicken, aren't I? Ford vs. Chevy might just be my favorite game so far, and that genuinely shocked me. I could not stand a single thing about Ford Mustang, and for this to come out a few months later and be this good...
Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Ford vs. Chevy starts off with some bold decisions. Not that kind of bold though, get that out of here. First of all, this game has a plot. It's about as deep as a puddle, but hey, I'll take it. The game opens up with your 2 gay grandfathers arguing about which brand is better as they watch the Ford vs. Chevy Cup. That's kinda it. It's charming and funny, but like, okay. They also kinda look like slimy aliens. The whole game boils down to this. I drive a Ford Ranger because my daddy said they're built tough. Ain't that right, Daddy? I drive a fucking Dodge Dakota. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, Jesus, customer transmission. Another bold decision was for the game to be set in an actual place. That place is Washington, which is lame as hell, but it is cool in the way that each track is just sectioned off areas of a full map. This is different than tracks just being entirely separate and on their own plane of existence. I think for a street racing game like this, having the maps be set in an actual city that gets sectioned off for each event is good. It feels very natural. Let me be perfectly clear though. This is like an entirely normal thing for racing games, and it's like so incredibly common, you could probably say all of the Ford racing games are outdated. I'm not a racing game expert, and even I can tell you that. These games came out and already felt like they were outdated, but that's not the point, because I have low standards, alright? Let's get to the meat and potatoes. The peanut butter and the jelly. The dick and the ass. The 2-in-1 shampoo. The driving. How is it? It's pretty good, actually. The physics in this game are a good bit more complicated than the previous games, and if I'm being honest, I fucking love it. Cars in this game can be thrown to the wall, and the game still functions when you're off the ground. We've got physics for all 4 individual wheels, and it feels superb to master it. The majority of cars in Ford vs Chevy are fairly grippy, so getting them to drift and slide smoothly is rewarding. This isn't just because you avoid slamming into a wall and damaging your car, which is now a thing you can do, but also because the game literally gives you points for doing cool shit. You may be wondering, who cares about points? What is this, 1985? Well, you will, because the points give you boost. That's such a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Oh yeah. You also get a boost for passing people and drafting, which I'm less thrilled about. At times it can make races a joke, and I'm willing to bet multiplayer in this game is genuinely obnoxious. How is it fair that you pass someone and then get a boost as a reward? Anyway, the point is it feels good to drive in this game. That's a good start to a racing game, but for it to actually be good, we have to avoid the monotony that racing games almost always fall into with their single player. I thought Ford Racing 2 and 3 did a great job at this with Ford Challenge and then Ford Competition. So was Eutechnix able to pull off some fun and genuinely engaging single player content? You betcha. I told you guys, this game is good. Kinda. The structure of the Washington Cup, as it's called, follows the Ford Challenge pretty closely, actually. Each chapter you're restricted to a few vehicles and have a varied list of events to complete. Some of these challenges will put you in a specific car. Some are as simple as a 3-lap race or first to the end, whereas some are a little more interesting. Of note for most of the basic races is that you're technically in a team event. You aren't just trying to beat all the other guys, you also have teammates. This means almost nothing in terms of actual gameplay, but how could I not mention the whole versus Chevy gimmick? At the start of the game you pick Ford or Chevy. You may have noticed that I picked Chevy just for the sake of variety, but aside from car selection you play the same campaign, I believe. Even then, every car has an equivalent on the opposite brand. Except the Ford Expedition for some reason. Yeah, the Tahoe and Suburban aren't in this game, are you shitting me? Anyway, the other events are typically kinda bad. Not like throw my controller bad, but I didn't really like them. Sometimes you're breaking vandalized billboards or taking pictures. Those ones I really didn't like because I just wish I was racing in this racing game. There isn't an overwhelming number of them though, so it's fine. The real problems are when the game decides it wants you to be precise in these driving skills challenges. I just can't be asked, okay, I saved, skimmed through it. Another issue I want to bring up is presentation. Now, as a base, assuming you're playing on hardware, this game looks good. It's easily the best looking game so far. It also has 2 funny announcers who argue about Fords and Chevys. My only real problem is when you emulate it. It's kind of impossible to get a good emulator experience. Don't even consider this a criticism, just consider this a disclaimer. Previously, when I was playing Ford Racing 2, the game had broken road and shadow textures, and thus I switched to software emulation. After that, everything worked fine until I got to this game. With software rendering, I ran into a lot of slowdown, and the only fix I could find for it was actually increasing the resolution. The only issue with that is you can only do that with hardware rendering, so that means some shadow textures are broken again. All that being said though, the point is you can't really get a perfect experience emulating Ford vs Chevy. I wish you could because I really like this game. It's well put together, has a good selection of Ford and Chevys, and doesn't really have any major glaring flaws. You just gotta deal with some issues if you emulate it. I would personally just say you should play the OG Xbox version, cause fuck the PlayStation. Isn't that great? Taking the time to review a game that wasn't even in the series totally worked out. This was a real fun couple of afternoons. My only real complaint is that I wanted to drive a Suburban. This is a Tahoe, dumbass. They're different. Time to move on though. We've got 2 games left. We've got Ford Street Racing, and we've got Ford Off-Road Racing. Let's start with this one. Alright, this is exciting, because it heralds the return of Razorworks for the end of the series. Let's fucking go. Those guys can make a video game, alright. I really had to go out of my way to find a copy of this game in particular. I'm talking 2-hour drive out of my way. Never say I don't do nothing for you guys. This game came out 11 months after Ford vs Chevy in the US, but for some reason Europe got it 7 months earlier. The timeline for these games is super weird across the pond actually. They got Ford Street Racing before Ford vs Chevy. I have no idea why that is. I'm also going to throw out real quick that I will not be playing 2 versions of this game. For some unknown reason, the PSP version has 6 extra cars in it and 6 new maps. What the hell? My best guess is that it didn't sell very well on console, so when they ported it over, they tried to make it seem more worth the price.
I truly don't know. These games are not well documented. But I'm not playing another version for this video. I've been at this for a month. Let me go.
Before I hop into this, I want to make something clear. I had to drive 2 hours to find a copy of this game. I live in a decently sized city in the Nashville area. I went to a fucking crack town in the middle of nowhere. This isn't popular. This game only has 400 views and downloads on the ROM website I've been using. This isn't popular. This is by far the least popular game of the entire series, and I really hope there isn't a reason for this. I'm not saying that the rest of the series was a smash hit that's still religiously played to this day, but the final game has 3 times the downloads of Street Racing on ROM's Fun. There is a chance I'm the first person to play Ford Street Racing in 2025. Crazy. Anyway, let's go. Ford Street Racing is kind of odd and peculiar, kind of strange and perverted, if you will. Does that make it a bad game? No, not inherently. I don't think the game is perfect, but standing out when we're 6 games in isn't really a bad thing. Why is it so weird and peculiar though? 2 reasons. Team racing and physics. They can wait their fucking turn though, because I want to talk about some other stuff. First of all, look at these graphics. Soak 'em in. Are they amazing? Well, I mean, kinda. Definitely the best we have seen so far in the series. Ford vs. Chevy looked alright, but it was kinda brown and stinky. But not only does this game have as good, if not better graphics than vs. Chevy, but it also has the car damage. Holy shit, it's like it was a video game made in 2005. I still don't think the damage does anything though. It may slightly reduce traction, but I'm honestly not sure. Cool nonetheless. These are also definitely the best looking vehicle models so far. Alas, that does mean we have seen a drastic reduction in vehicles in this game. It's kind of sad how few there are in this game. This is a licensed Ford game without a normal F-150. Every single game except Mustang has had that up to this point. It's one of the most iconic and best-selling vehicles of all time. Okay, well I mean, technically there's the SVT Lightning, but that doesn't count. That's like asking for steak and getting a hamburger patty. Maybe there's a regular F-150 in the PSP version.
But you can kiss my ass if you think I'm playing more games for this video. I'm not doing it. I don't care about the PSP port and neither do you, so don't pretend to.
Alright, let's talk about some team racing. You can still race by yourself, but the game is built for team racing, and you don't really unlock anything for solo races, so if you aren't down with team racing, then stay away from this one. What does team racing entail, though? Well, normally not teamwork. During a team race, the goal is to get the best overall score by switching between all of your racers. Of course, it's best if you get first, but sometimes that isn't necessary. Aside from being able to switch between racers, you can do epic team moves with them. Does that sound cool? Well, you can only do 2 of them. Womp womp. You can either choose to initiate a block or a draft. Telling your teammate to block essentially guarantees they'll keep their current position, because they'll swerve into anyone trying to pass them, kinda like a Nissan Altima. Drafting is a little more useful. In theory, you're supposed to follow behind your teammate and then you get a small speed boost. In practice, you get a giant boost to your speed and handling. Because of that, it's best to try and stay together. It's also important because the AI in this game is murderous. Murderous, I tell you. Technically, there's 2 difficulties in this game, but no matter which one you play on, the AI will be trying to butt rape you. That's not inherently the worst thing in the world. Having good AI that knows how to win makes the game a lot more involved beyond just getting first place on the first lap and cruise from there. It isn't all perfect though, and that is a nice little segue into the physics. As a whole, they are great. This is the best handling Ford racing game so far. It's so satisfying to whip these cars around. It is a stark departure from the previous games though, and especially versus Chevy. I've mentioned physics like 5 times in this video, but this is probably where it matters the most. With physics so heavy and realistic, cornering at 100 miles an hour can be a little bit of a challenge, and the game is built around that. The vast majority of tracks have lots of straightaways with tightly contested corners. It's genuinely all great stuff, but when it comes to the whole team racing thing, it becomes a bit of a problem. Most cars drive radically different from each other, and some of the races require a 3-car team. You have to know exactly how 3 different cars handle and keep up with that while racing. It's not impossible, but something to be aware of if you decide to play this one. The team AI also isn't perfect by any means, and it's kind of funny. I don't know what causes it, but sometimes the AI just drives perfectly at 1,000,000 miles per hour and you can't really lose unless you get dead last. That's it on the basic gameplay though. It's really solid. I'm told that games usually have a bit more than just basic gameplay though, and luckily this is one of them. We've got 2 main modes of gameplay, Championships and Challenge. Championships are essentially Grand Prix, simple as. There aren't a lot of them though, just an easy and hard for the 3 categories of each car. Each individual race rewards tracks, cars, and new challenges, so the progression is pretty steady though. The problem is that you have to buy the cars, which genuinely makes no sense for this game. You unlock, and then you have to buy it? But why? There's so few cars in this game, at least let me use them. I don't know, it annoyed me. What didn't annoy me is that Ford Challenge is back! We've already been over Ford Challenge, and it works the exact same way here. Well, not exactly the same. It has way less rewards, especially compared to Ford Racing 3 and its 50 fucking million cars. But it is still Ford Challenge, and we take these wins. Ford Challenge does also alleviate my annoyance of not being able to use cars in Championship without buying them. Even if it didn't do that though, more to do is still more to do, and I like Ford Challenge.
Well, that was a pleasant surprise. Ford Street Racing is pretty good. But, let's finish this up, alright? Ford Off-Road Racing. I get the certain feeling that budgets have been steadily decreasing as the series goes on. But, Razorworks has yet to let me down. So, I trust you, Ford Off-Road Racing.
Guys, they did it. They let me down. They did me wrong. Holy shit, that is a stupid fucking joke. I was excited for Ford Off-Road Racing, not only because off-road means a whole lot of trucks, but because we finally have it, my baby, the Ford Ranger. Well, technically it's not my baby. This is a 3rd generation base model, and mine is a 2nd generation XLT. If you're less autistic about 90s compact trucks, there's also Land Rovers here. I don't know who gives a fuck about Land Rovers, but they're here. They're like luxury Jeeps, but even uglier than Jeeps. Genuinely, I've never met anyone who cares about these things, but living in rich people land Tennessee, I see enough 2023 Defenders with tech bros inside them for a lifetime. On a more serious note, this game definitely could have had more good vehicles in it. Like what, Spoop? There's already like 5 variants of the F-150. Well, maybe ask Ford Racing 3 because they had plenty of off-road vehicles and it wasn't even the focus. Personally, I'm happy we finally got the Ranger in the last game of the series, but I was also holding out for an Excursion. Tangentially related to the Excursion, but you guys know the SVT Lightning, right? It's been in a few games already. It's a high-performance racing F-150 pretty much. Well, did you know Ford almost made a companion to it called the SVT Thunder? It would have been an Expedition, and whoever decided not to make it is a numbskull. I'm really off track right now. So why is off-road racing bad? Well, first of all, this game can't be emulated. In software mode, it has slowdown, and in hardware mode, it has various egregious graphical issues. Unlike previous games, these are documented and have no solution, so if you want to play, get out your PS2. Normally, I'd go out of my way to do that if it's this bad, but after 20 minutes of playing the game, I decided not to. First race, I get my Ranger, and beyond the emulation issues, I notice this game feels extremely bad. More so than the other games. It looks and plays like a beta version of Ford Racing 2 with none of that game's good qualities. That's enough for me to just not care about this game, but it's also buggy. In my second race, the game somehow lost track of me and decided I was going backwards when I wasn't, meaning I was soft-locked. This was 10 minutes into my playtime with the game, by the way. I don't think I need to get the Elgato and the laptop set up just so I can have a proper experience in this game. This is just not acceptable for a game released in 2008. One review noted that Off-Road Racing had ugly visuals, terrible AI, and pathetic physics. Not all of the cars handle badly. Some of them handle appallingly. and as the game progresses, you can unlock vehicles which handle awfully, shoddily, dreadfully, and horrifically. No wonder this was the end of the series if even me, a Ford racing fan, couldn't stand it.
Something of note here is while I was checking that 2008 date, I did finally realize something 20 pages into the script. All of these games have a PC port, so maybe I shouldn't have emulated any of them. Anyway, Ford Off-Road Racing is bad. It may be the greatest game ever 5 hours in, but I don't care to find out. It just sucks. I'm here to tell you guys if a game that you see on the shelf at a fucking used game store is good. And let me tell you, it's not. It's not worth your time, it's not worth emulating, it's not worth your money. Don't play Ford Off-Road Racing. Much like Ford Mustang, I just do not care to keep playing it. And I'm not going to tell you guys, oh man, I played it for 3 hours and it was so great. That's not a fair review of a game. Because if I can't stick with it, you guys won't. Anyway, that's all the Ford racings. I think it's about time we end this video. I started this script on June 9th. I don't know what time it is when this video is finally uploaded, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say late September. I'm going to put a piece of text here saying if that's right. Now, what better way to do an actual conclusion than to do a tier list ranking of all the games I just spent 20 minutes talking about? I'm real bad with conclusions.
Number 8, Ford Racing 1. Do you guys remember the start of this video when I talked about this game? I don't, so here's a reminder. It sucks. It has no redeeming qualities and you shouldn't play it. If someone offers you a free copy, you should slap them in the face. Number 7, Ford Off-Road Racing. Buggy, generic, ugly. It's better than Ford Racing 1, but being made 7 years later, I'd hope so. The only value for me is that it has a Ranger and an Expedition. I'm autistic about those two, but I probably won't be playing it ever again. Number 6, Ford Racing 3 on the DS. This only made up a 10-second joke, but I do think it's better than the last two. It's a fair enough recreation of a low-budget console game. If I had this when I was a kid, I would not be upset. Though if you're above the age of 13, just play the console version. Number 5, Ford Mustang, The Legend Lives. This one is personal. I don't like the physics, and I don't like Mustangs. Corvettes have always been better. This is the first game I have a genuine compliment to give though. It feels like one of those arcade racers. I personally hate that in a home console game, but if that's what you like and you want to race exclusively as Mustangs made before 2005, this is for you. Number 4, Ford Street Racing. This one's alright. While it lacks in variety, especially compared to the previous games, it has great track designs and the most realistic physics in the series. I don't think the team racing is perfect, but if you can put up with it, you have some very rewarding racing to enjoy. Number 3, Ford Racing 2. This is the one everyone remembers and probably the reason most people clicked on the video. It's good for what it is, which is the start of the series. If you have nostalgia or you're curious, this one is definitely worth $5 for the time to get the emulator set up. It does have one minor problem though, that being that Ford Racing 3 is better in every way. Number 2, Ford vs. Chevy. This one isn't even officially part of the series, yet it made its way into my heart. See, it's not there. If nothing else, this game has charm. Of the series, it's the one that feels the least like you got it for free at a flea market. Having lots of Chevys is also a major plus. This game would be number 1 if it had Suburbans and Tahoes, but no. Well, actually, it would be number 1 if the physics were less ridiculous, but shut up. This game is good, and you should play it. Number 1, Ford Racing 3. This game has it all. A bunch of Grand Prix, a bunch of challenges, the most cars in the whole series, the second best map selection. This game is peak. The common consensus on this game online is that 2 is better, and I think those people are insane. I imagine they haven't actually thought too hard about it and don't really care, but whatever, they're wrong. This game is awesome. I really enjoyed my time with this one. If you play any game in this video, make it this one.
And we are finally done with the Ford Racing series. That took forever. It was pretty fun though. I think I might make it a regular occurrence to review random stuff I buy at the game store. I've had this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory game on OG Xbox for a while. I'm gonna go now though. There's no outro bit for this video because if I make an elaborate outro bit, this video will genuinely never get finished. Hope you guys have a good one, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and it feels nice being the first person to review the entire Ford Racing series. What a prestigious title.
Hey, so that joke actually didn't work, because when I originally checked, no one else had reviewed the whole series, but when I checked a second time, a different result came up, and someone else has already done it. Also, yeah, that is a beer on the desk. Bye now. Oh yeah, the Tony Hawk video is real. The other one is just lazy. We're writing it right now, I promise.